Long before wires and light bulbs, humans looked to the sky and the world around them and noticed something both wondrous and terrifying: lightning. Streaks of light tearing across the clouds, thunder rolling like a drum, and sparks that leapt from materials when rubbed. These were the earliest encounters with what we now call electricity. Ancient peoples did not yet understand the nature of this force, but they observed patterns, repeated phenomena, and wove their experiences into stories, rituals, and myths. Lightning was more than a natural event. It was a messenger of gods, an omen, a reminder of the vast and unpredictable forces that shaped human life. In the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, priests watched the skies and recorded celestial events. They noted when lightning struck and what followed, connecting its appearance with harvests, floods, or victories in battle. Similarly, in ancient China, scholars linked lightning to cosmic balance, believing that storms could reflect the harmony or disharmony between heaven and earth. These early observations were not merely superstition. They represented the first step in humanity's long journey to understand and harness electrical phenomena. People began asking questions. Why does this happen? When does it happen? Could it be controlled? And through these questions, curiosity began to blossom into proto-scientific inquiry. At the same time, smaller, subtler sparks fascinated early observers. The ancient Greeks noticed that amber, when rubbed with fur, could attract small objects like feathers. They called this effect electron, the root of the word electricity. Imagine a young Greek scholar sitting in the courtyard of his marble school, rubbing a piece of amber and watching in wonder as tiny bits of straw hovered and danced toward it. He calls his fellow philosophers, eager to demonstrate this mysterious attraction. For them, the phenomenon was a puzzle to ponder, a hint that unseen forces governed the world around them. The experiment was simple, yet it inspired questions that would echo across centuries. What is this force? How does it move? Could it be made to do work? These sparks and flashes were not only curiosities but also sources of awe and fear. Ancient humans knew that lightning could destroy crops, strike dwellings, or injure livestock. Yet, the same force that threatened life also illuminated the sky, revealing patterns and rhythms. Societies began attempting to predict, explain, and even protect themselves from these events. Some constructed rudimentary lightning rods, metal objects placed atop buildings, while others performed ritualistic offerings to appease gods they believed controlled the storm. Early humans recognized, even if imperfectly, that understanding nature required both observation and respect, a duality that would continue to define scientific pursuit. Cultural exchange played a significant role in spreading this early knowledge. Through trade routes connecting Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, and Greece, ideas about lightning, static sparks, and conductive materials moved alongside goods and spices. Merchants and scholars shared their observations, sometimes in the form of detailed notes, sometimes as verbal stories. Early mentions of sparks and rudimentary conductive experiments appear in historical texts scattered across these regions, indicating that the fascination with electricity was not isolated but shared across continents. Knowledge flowed along rivers, deserts, and seas, connecting thinkers separated by geography but united by curiosity. Human engagement with these phenomena was deeply intertwined with reflection on mortality and the cosmos. Lightning, with its sudden brilliance and destructive power, reminded observers of life's fragility and the vast forces beyond human control. In a village near the Nile, an elder recounts to children how a bolt once struck a tree near the temple, leaving charred branches that served as a reminder of the god's reach. The children listen wide-eyed, absorbing not only the story but the sense that human life exists within a larger, ordered, and sometimes unpredictable universe. These narratives built the foundation for future inquiry, teaching patience, careful observation, and reverence for natural forces. As centuries passed, small, methodical experiments complemented natural observation. In addition to amber, people noted sparks jumping between objects, the strange attraction of certain stones, and the persistent link between friction and attraction. Each observation was a clue, a whisper from the universe, hinting at a force both subtle and powerful. Scholars began to catalog their findings, creating early proto-laboratories where curiosity could be nurtured. In these spaces, observation turned into experimentation, laying the groundwork for the scientific revolution that would follow. Meanwhile, myths surrounding electricity evolved alongside observation. Across cultures, lightning became a symbol of divine authority, sudden insight, or cosmic balance. In Norse mythology, Thor wielded his hammer to control storms. In Hindu texts, Indra's thunderbolt was a weapon of gods. These stories, while spiritual in nature, contained kernels of human attempts to understand and interpret electrical phenomena. They demonstrate an essential truth. Humans seek to understand the world not only through measurement but through narrative, connection, and meaning. The human story of electricity is inseparable from these early curiosities. A Babylonian scribe records flashes in the night sky, wondering whether they are warnings, messages, or natural events. He sketches the shapes, noting the time and direction, perhaps unknowingly laying the groundwork for systematic observation. This careful documentation reflects the spirit of inquiry that would, centuries later, inspire experiments with rods, kites, and batteries. Knowledge traveled in unexpected ways. Observations from one civilization informed and inspired thinkers in another. Traders carried stories of amber and lightning from Greek markets to Roman forums. Astronomers in China noted sparks during thunderstorms and shared their records with neighboring scholars. This early exchange created a silent network of knowledge, a precursor to the collaborative spirit that would later define modern scientific inquiry. By the 17th and 18th centuries, this curiosity blossomed into formal experimentation. Scientists began asking not just what electricity was, but how it worked. In a dimly lit European study, a scholar rubs a glass tube with silk, noting how small bits of paper leap toward it. He records the results meticulously, demonstrating an early attempt to systematize observation. These experiments marked the transition from wonder to inquiry, curiosity to method. It was during this period that the stage was set for one of the most iconic experiments in human history, Benjamin Franklin's investigation of lightning. Franklin's genius lay not merely in observation but in daring experimentation. In a summer storm, Franklin flies his kite with a key attached, watching as the first sparks leap from the string. The moment is simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating, a human being literally touching the force of nature. He realizes that lightning is not divine wrath but an electrical phenomenon, a discovery that links centuries of human curiosity to practical understanding. At the same time, scientists like Alessandro Volta, Luigi Galvani, and others were probing the electrical forces in new ways. Volta's invention of the voltaic pile created a steady current, transforming electricity from a fleeting spark into a controllable flow. Galvani's experiments with bioelectricity challenged assumptions about life and energy. These breakthroughs were not isolated. They were part of a continuum that began with human awe at lightning and curiosity about amber. Volta demonstrates his battery to astonished colleagues, showing that electricity can be stored and released, a precursor to the lights, motors, and circuits that will later define civilization. This journey from sparks in the sky to controlled electrical currents illustrates a central truth. Human understanding grows incrementally through observation, experimentation, and reflection. Each microdiscovery built upon the last, a chain of curiosity linking Greek philosophers, Babylonian scribes, and Enlightenment scientists. Long before electricity powered cities and homes, human curiosity drove experimentation. After centuries of observing lightning, sparks, and static, early scientists began to ask not just what electricity was, but how it behaved and whether it could be controlled. These inquisitive minds were not merely tinkering. They were laying the foundation for an entirely new understanding of the natural world. In the mid-1700s, Benjamin Franklin emerged as a figure whose curiosity would redefine human knowledge of electricity. Franklin was fascinated by storms. He observed that lightning illuminated the sky in brilliant, jagged flashes and wondered whether this celestial display was connected to the small sparks he had seen jumping from rubbed amber and glass rods. He hypothesized that lightning was an electrical phenomenon, nature's immense version of the sparks humans could create in the laboratory. To test this idea, Franklin devised a bold experiment. One summer afternoon, he flies a kite during a thunderstorm. A key dangles from the string, and he watches in awe as sparks jump from the metal. The air crackles, his heart races, and in that moment, Franklin realizes that the same force that electrifies a storm could be harnessed by humans. It is a revelation born of courage, curiosity, and careful observation. While Franklin explored the skies, another pioneer, Alessandro Volta, approached electricity from a different angle. Inspired by earlier work on static electricity and the phenomena Galvani observed in frog legs, Volta sought to create a steady, controllable flow of electrical energy. He invents the voltaic pile, the first true battery, which generates a continuous current instead of fleeting sparks. Volta demonstrates his pile to skeptical colleagues. As the disks and brine produce a steady, palpable current, observers marvel at the simple yet revolutionary concept. Electricity could be stored, transmitted, and used as a reliable energy source. This was no longer the realm of lightning and amber, it was now a tool in human hands. Luigi Galvani's experiments with frog legs introduced yet another dimension: animal electricity. He noticed that when certain metals touched a frog's muscle, it twitched, as if animated by a mysterious force. Scholars debated, was this electricity inherent to life, or was it a product of metals and circuits? A young assistant carefully attaches tiny metal rods to a frog's leg, observing minute twitches and recording the results meticulously. The experiment sparks discussions across Europe about the nature of life and energy, blending biology, physics, and philosophy in ways that would influence scientific inquiry for decades. As these experiments proliferated, knowledge began to travel. Letters, journals, and personal visits created a network of collaboration across Europe. Young scientists replicated Franklin's kite, Volta's piles, and Galvani's frog experiments, sometimes refining the methods, other times discovering unexpected phenomena. In a dimly lit Parisian study, a student recreates Volta's pile, marveling at the gentle hum of current and the faint sparks. Each replication builds confidence, spreads understanding, and unites scholars across countries and cultures, proving that electricity was not a curiosity of one land, but a universal phenomenon awaiting mastery. The process of experimentation was both thrilling and painstaking. Every small spark demanded careful observation. Electrostatic machines hummed and crackled in labs as scholars studied the movement of charge. A young apprentice watches with wide eyes as a glass globe spun rapidly, attracting bits of straw and feathers that dance in the air, anticipating that one day these experiments might illuminate rooms instead of just drawing awe in a laboratory. The mid-18th century was a pivotal moment for electricity. Scientists began to document phenomena systematically: sparks jumping between metals, the attraction of lightweight objects, and the effects of moisture and friction. Each detail, recorded in meticulous journals, became a stepping stone. A scholar carefully sketches each experiment, noting how changing materials affects the intensity and reach of sparks. He writes in Latin, knowing his notes may reach colleagues across Europe. This rigorous documentation allows patterns to emerge, slowly transforming electricity from mystery to knowledge. Pause for a moment. If you could witness the first spark of electricity in a lab or storm, what would you want to see and feel? Share your thoughts below. Building upon these discoveries, scientists began to devise practical experiments to generate and manipulate current. Leyden jars stored electrical charge, glass rods, rubbed with silk, produced sparks that could leap across a small gap, and simple wires could transmit electricity from one object to another. Scholars began to envision applications that stretched beyond curiosity. Could this force light a home? Power machinery? Send messages across distances? The human element remained central. These early researchers were often working in small, poorly lit rooms with limited resources. In a tiny study in London, a student adjusts the Leyden jar, carefully ensuring the metal rods are aligned. A slight miscalculation could result in a painful spark or a failed experiment. Yet the tension and anticipation are part of the thrill. These were moments of discovery forged in humility and patience, the quiet labor behind every great breakthrough. Collaboration extended beyond borders. Scholars in Paris, London, Vienna, and Rome exchanged letters filled with detailed observations, drawings, and instructions for replication. Each communication strengthened the European network of electrical knowledge. A young Italian scientist replicates Franklin's experiments with a kite in an open field, noting the differences in weather, altitude, and humidity. He writes to colleagues in France, suggesting improvements, and eagerly awaits their feedback. Electricity, once observed in isolation, becomes a shared human endeavor. The ethical dimension also began to emerge. Experiments carried risks: accidental shocks, minor burns, and sometimes damage to fragile instruments. Scholars learned to balance curiosity with caution. In a German laboratory, a researcher recoils as a spark arcs from a metal sphere, singeing a few hairs from his hand. He smiles, knowing that even small setbacks are part of the scientific journey. These small experiences underscore the human courage and ingenuity driving the slow but steady march toward mastery over electrical forces. Through these careful observations and experiments, the foundations of modern electrical theory were laid. The work of Franklin, Volta, Galvani, and countless lesser-known scientists connected centuries of curiosity to the coming technological revolution. What had begun as awe at lightning and the strange attraction of amber now held the potential to transform society. Every spark recorded, every experiment documented, and every observation shared contributed to a cumulative understanding that would eventually power cities, industries, and homes. Humanity had moved beyond simply observing electricity to beginning to control and manipulate it. Each experiment was a thread woven into the growing tapestry of electrical knowledge, linking imagination to method, wonder to practical application, and curiosity to discovery. The human drive to understand the unseen had turned invisible forces into measurable, repeatable phenomena. And as these discoveries accumulated, the stage was set for the next leap, taking electricity from controlled experiments to practical inventions that could illuminate the world. As humanity moved from curiosity to experimentation, the next frontier became clear: how to harness electricity not just for understanding, but for practical use. The flickers and sparks that once danced across laboratory tables and the skies of storms were now poised to illuminate homes, streets, and industries. The quest was no longer about observation alone, it was about bringing the invisible into everyday life, turning wonder into utility. Early attempts to produce steady light were experiments in persistence and ingenuity. Scientists sought to create devices that could emit continuous illumination, rather than fleeting sparks. Gas discharge tubes were among the first innovations, glowing faintly in small, dim rooms as experimenters recorded every variation in color and intensity. Arc lamps followed, sending bright streaks of light across halls, though their brilliance came with challenges: noise, heat, and the occasional failure. In a tiny European laboratory, a scientist watches as a thin, glowing wire casts a warm light across the room. He takes notes feverishly, adjusting distance and materials, marveling that something so intangible can now shape human perception and experience. Each small breakthrough brought the dream of electric light closer to reality. Amid these early efforts, Thomas Edison emerged as a figure whose determination would become legendary. Edison approached electricity with methodical experimentation, testing countless materials in search of a filament that could glow reliably without burning out. In his dimly lit Menlo Park laboratory, Edison and his team examined the hundreds of samples arrayed on wooden tables. Bamboo, cotton, metals, and plant fibers are tried, rejected, and tried again. Days turn into nights as the faint glow of a filament flickers, then stabilizes, until finally a carbonized bamboo thread sustains light for hours. The excitement is palpable. Edison sees not just illumination, but the transformation of daily life. Streets, factories, homes, and schools could all be lit safely and consistently. It was a victory born of patience, observation, and an unwavering belief in the practical potential of electricity. Meanwhile, Nikola Tesla approached the challenge from another angle. He envisioned alternating current, a system that could efficiently transmit electricity over long distances, unlike the direct current systems that Edison favored. In a crowded lecture hall, Tesla demonstrates a working AC motor, its coils spinning, lights flickering, and onlookers gasping as the power flows seamlessly across the room. The spectacle is not just technical. It is a human drama, where vision, imagination, and courage converge to redefine what electricity can achieve. Tesla's work would eventually power entire cities, proving that the ability to transmit energy was as important as the ability to generate it. The next challenge was bringing electric light from isolated experiments into the homes and streets of ordinary people. Early power grids began to appear, connecting generators, transformers, and homes. Factories, once reliant on gas or steam, could operate longer hours. Streets once shrouded in darkness at night glimmered with electric lamps. A family in a small American town experiences electric light for the first time. Evening tasks that once required oil lamps cooking, sewing, reading become effortless. Children marvel at the flickering bulbs, parents exchange astonished glances, and the entire household senses that their rhythm of life has shifted. Electricity had moved from observation and theory to something tangible, intimate, and transformative. Collaboration played a critical role in this transformation. Inventors, engineers, and early corporations shared ideas, debated methods, and refined techniques. Knowledge traveled through letters, journals, conferences, and demonstration halls. A young engineer in Berlin reads an account of Edison's successful light bulb tests, then experiments with similar filaments in his workshop, adding subtle improvements that enhance durability and efficiency. Across continents, these incremental contributions weave a tapestry of innovation, proving that electricity is not the product of a single genius, but of human curiosity multiplied by collaboration. The challenges were immense. Systems failed, fires broke out, and skeptics questioned the practicality and safety of this new force. In a factory in London, workers watch sparks arc unpredictably from a transformer, and the manager nervously adjusts wiring. Yet with each failure came learning, adaptation, and eventual triumph. Human ingenuity, resilience, and careful observation were as critical as the electrical principles themselves. The path from experimental spark to everyday utility was winding and fraught, but it demonstrated a fundamental truth. Progress depends on trial, error, and the courage to persist. Communication about these discoveries accelerated the pace of innovation. Scientific societies such as the Royal Society in London and similar organizations across Europe and the United States became hubs for sharing experiments, debating findings, and inspiring new research. A young student in Paris reads a journal detailing Tesla's AC demonstrations and Franklin's earlier lightning experiments, connecting centuries of curiosity into a coherent understanding. She replicates experiments in her modest laboratory, feeling a kinship with the thinkers who came before. Knowledge was no longer confined to solitary inventors. It became a human network, spanning generations and geography. By the end of the 19th century, the world was transformed. Cities illuminated by electric streetlights stretched into the night. Factories operated more efficiently. Homes, once limited by the setting sun, now thrived under constant illumination. In a small Italian city, street vendors and shopkeepers adjust their schedules, noticing how electric light changes customer behavior, commerce, and the very rhythm of daily life. Electricity had moved from being a phenomenon of curiosity to a force that reshaped society, commerce, and culture. Through all these advances, the human element remained central. Each spark, each filament, and each motor reflected the dedication, imagination, and perseverance of countless individuals. In a quiet New York workshop, an apprentice adjusts the wiring of an early street lamp, feeling the weight of responsibility and pride as the lamp illuminates the street for the first time. In these moments, electricity is more than energy. It is a shared human achievement, a testament to observation, experimentation, and collaboration across time and space. Electricity's journey from invisible spark to practical illumination also influenced societal perceptions. Nighttime no longer meant inactivity or fear. It became a period of productivity, study, and leisure. Human schedules expanded, communities reorganized, and daily life shifted in rhythm and expectation. A teacher in Chicago uses electric lighting to hold evening classes, extending learning opportunities for children and adults alike. The once inaccessible night becomes a canvas for human activity, imagination, and growth. The narrative of electricity in this period also underscores the cumulative nature of human knowledge. Franklin's daring experiments with kites, Volta's invention of the battery, Galvani's explorations of bioelectricity, Edison's filament, and Tesla's AC system are not isolated triumphs. They are interwoven threads of curiosity, observation, collaboration, and problem-solving. Each generation built upon the last, creating a lineage of understanding that transformed both theory and society. By connecting natural phenomena to controlled experiments and practical inventions, humanity discovered not just the mechanics of electricity, but its profound implications. From flickering sparks in labs to glowing homes, from isolated motors to sprawling power grids, the invisible force became tangible, transformative, and inseparable from the human story of ingenuity, curiosity, and persistence. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were a period of transformation unlike any before. Electricity, once a subject of experimentation and scientific curiosity, began to weave itself into the very fabric of daily life. Towns and cities glimmered under new illumination, homes buzzed with gadgets powered by currents, and industries hummed with productivity that had once been impossible. Human life, routine, and imagination were being reshaped, one spark at a time. Home electrification marked a profound shift in the rhythm of family life. The small household, once illuminated by candles, oil lamps, or gaslight, now had access to steady, reliable electric lighting. In a modest apartment in Chicago, a family gathers in the evening around the warm glow of electric bulbs for the first time. Children read stories that once would have been impossible to see by candlelight. Parents find themselves completing chores with ease, their evenings longer and more productive. The home becomes a space not only for survival but for creativity, learning, and leisure. Even the simplest acts, reading a book, writing letters, or sewing clothing, transform under this new light, and with each flick of a switch, a household enters a future once unimaginable. Urban life underwent a similarly dramatic change. Streets once dark and treacherous at night now shimmered with lamps, making travel safer and extending commerce well into the evening. Factories, traditionally dependent on daylight or dim gaslight, could operate longer hours with more precision and safety. In a textile factory in Manchester, workers notice how the new electric lights illuminate every loom and thread. Mistakes decrease, accidents become less frequent, and productivity soars. Managers realize that electricity is not merely illumination, it is a force that changes the scale, safety, and rhythm of industry. Streetcars glide silently on electric tracks, connecting neighborhoods and transforming urban mobility. The city, once limited by darkness, begins to pulse with life after sunset. Cultural and social dimensions evolved alongside technological progress. Public spaces, theaters, and educational institutions adopted electric lighting, extending the boundaries of human activity. In Paris, children gather at a local library for evening reading sessions, their faces lit by the soft glow of electric lamps. In New York, a festival is held in a town square, each lamp illuminating performers, spectators, and merchants. Electricity enables gatherings and celebrations that were once restricted to daylight hours, fostering community, culture, and education. Society begins to redefine its temporal limits, reshaping leisure and work, study and play, under the guidance of controlled, dependable light. The spread of electricity was not without its challenges. Early electrical systems were often experimental, prone to failure, and potentially dangerous. In a small London neighborhood, engineers rush to stabilize newly installed wiring after an arc sparks a minor fire. Neighborhood residents watch anxiously as the problem is resolved, realizing the power they have gained comes with new responsibilities. Lessons in safety, standardization, and infrastructure grow alongside adoption, reminding humanity that mastery of natural forces requires care, foresight, and ethical consideration. This period also witnessed remarkable collaboration and innovation across borders. Engineers, scientists, and industrialists exchanged ideas, blueprints, and methodologies, creating a global dialogue around electricity. A young engineer in Berlin corresponds with a colleague in New York, comparing arc lamp designs and voltage standards. Their letters, brimming with diagrams and observations, contribute to a shared understanding that transcends geography. Corporations, inventors, and municipalities cooperate to develop power grids, electrical codes, and urban planning strategies, demonstrating that electricity is not merely a technological phenomenon but a human enterprise rooted in collaboration and shared knowledge. The introduction of electricity to homes and streets also created ripple effects in commerce and daily routines. Shops could remain open later, theaters could host evening performances, and cafes could serve customers long after sunset. In Vienna, a cafe owner adjusts to electric lighting for the first time. Patrons linger, savoring the warm glow and vibrant atmosphere, discovering that the night has become a new frontier of social life. This transformation reshapes human behavior. Evenings are no longer constrained by darkness but expanded by opportunity. Education, commerce, entertainment, and public engagement all benefit from the human ability to harness energy in ways that extend experience and perception. In parallel, early electrification inspired ingenuity and creativity in individuals. Inventors designed household appliances, from electric irons to early vacuum cleaners, while educators integrated lighting into schools to extend learning hours. A teacher in Boston notices how children's attention spans increase when classrooms are well lit by electricity. Writing and reading exercises continue into the evening, expanding knowledge and fostering intellectual growth. The subtle, human-centered benefits of electricity demonstrate that technological adoption is not merely about machinery or infrastructure, it is about enriching life, broadening opportunity, and fostering progress in daily routines. The psychological impact of widespread electrification cannot be overstated. Darkness, once a limit imposed by nature, ceased to dictate human activity. In a small town, a family takes a nighttime walk under newly installed streetlights. Children laugh and play without fear, adults navigate the streets safely, and the town experiences a sense of freedom previously unavailable. Time, perception, and the experience of daily life begin to shift as humans integrate electricity into their routines. The glow of bulbs, the hum of motors, and the steady illumination of streets and homes symbolize a profound expansion of human capability and imagination. The transformative power of electricity is evident not only in practical applications but also in human perception and societal structure. In a bustling industrial district, a worker pauses to watch the interplay of lights across streets, factories, and homes. He reflects on how a force once feared in storms now serves as a constant companion, illuminating tasks, ideas, and possibilities. If you could experience electricity the first time it illuminated a street, a home, or a factory, what would you be most amazed by? Share your thoughts below. Beyond the immediate practicalities, electricity began reshaping the imagination itself. Artists, musicians, and writers took inspiration from electric light, reflecting it in paintings, performances, and literature. In a Parisian theater, electric stage lighting transforms the ambience of a dramatic performance, enabling new effects and moods. Writers describe luminous cityscapes that glow like never before, capturing the human fascination with this invisible yet omnipresent force. Electricity becomes more than utility. It becomes a symbol of modernity, creativity, and human ingenuity. Even as electricity illuminated homes and cities, it remained a domain of learning and experimentation. Engineers tested new wiring techniques, safety measures, and power distribution strategies, ensuring that the technology could scale to meet growing demand. In a New York workshop, a technician adjusts the connections of an early transformer, carefully noting voltage stability and safety concerns. These meticulous efforts make electrification not just widespread but reliable, underscoring the human attention to detail that ensures innovation serves society responsibly. The narrative of widespread electrification is inseparable from the human experience. From the child reading under a brightened lamp to the factory worker seeing her tasks illuminated safely, electricity shapes daily life, work, and play. In a small rural village, a family gathers around their first electric stove, marveling at how it changes cooking and communal meals. Each household, each factory, each street becomes a microcosm of progress, reflecting centuries of observation, experimentation, and ingenuity. By the end of this period, electricity has become a defining force in human civilization. It illuminates streets, powers factories, enhances education, and inspires imagination. The collaboration of engineers, inventors, families, and communities transforms a once mysterious phenomenon into an indispensable part of life. Human curiosity, ingenuity, and persistence have turned invisible forces into visible, transformative power. And with this foundation in place, society stands ready for the next evolution. Digital electronics, computers, and an interconnected world illuminated not just by light, but by the flow of information itself. Electricity, once a flicker in storms and sparks in laboratories, now hums invisibly through every facet of modern life. From the soft glow of a bedside lamp to the enormous currents powering skyscrapers and data centers, it has become the backbone of daily existence. Homes, offices, hospitals, and cities alike rely on this invisible force to maintain rhythm, connection, and activity. Humanity's early experiments with arcs, filaments, and currents have evolved into a seamless infrastructure that intertwines with every aspect of contemporary life. In the home, electricity orchestrates a symphony of devices that shape work, learning, leisure, and communication. A family in a metropolitan apartment begins their morning routine using coffee machines, lights, and digital assistants simultaneously. Children join online classes while parents attend virtual meetings, streaming information and entertainment through countless devices. The convenience and immediacy of electricity have altered daily rhythms, creating spaces where multiple activities can coexist without interruption. The invisible networks that support this connectivity are the legacy of centuries of experimentation, innovation, and meticulous engineering. Beyond individual homes, modern infrastructure reflects the scale and ambition of human reliance on electricity. High-voltage power lines, sophisticated grids, and renewable energy installations ensure that vast populations receive consistent and reliable power. In a regional control center, engineers monitor a sprawling network of power stations, transformers, and substations. When a fault occurs, their coordination prevents a widespread outage, maintaining light, warmth, and communication for thousands. The human dedication behind these systems underscores the fact that electricity is not only a technological marvel, but also a product of continuous vigilance, collaboration, and responsibility. Our dependence on electricity highlights both resilience and vulnerability. Outages, cyberattacks, and environmental hazards remind society that these systems, while robust, are not infallible. In a small town, a sudden blackout plunges streets, homes, and offices into darkness. Families light candles and share stories by hand, children marveling at the temporary absence of an omnipresent force. Communities adapt, revealing ingenuity and patience while underscoring how deeply modern life depends on continuous electrical flow. Such moments serve as both a caution and a reflection on the interconnectedness of technology and human daily life. Hospitals, transportation networks, and emergency services illustrate electricity's role in sustaining life and mobility. During a surge in demand, a hospital's backup generators kick in, ensuring that surgeries continue uninterrupted and critical care machines remain functional. Nurses, doctors, and patients experience firsthand the invisible threads that connect human safety, health, and comfort to the reliable delivery of electrical power. The stakes are high, and the human stories intertwined with these systems demonstrate that electricity is not merely convenience, it is essential, life-sustaining, and transformative. In the workplace and industry, electricity drives productivity, innovation, and global commerce. A manufacturing plant in Germany utilizes synchronized machinery, computers, and automated systems, all dependent on uninterrupted power. Engineers monitor performance, adjusting operations in real time while the workforce adapts to faster, safer, and more efficient production cycles. Across continents, factories, research labs, and offices operate in concert, demonstrating how electricity has become the unseen force linking human ambition and technological capability. At the societal level, cities and nations showcase the cultural, economic, and symbolic significance of electricity. Streets glitter with neon lights, subways move seamlessly under electric propulsion, and information flows through networks of fiber optics and satellites. In Tokyo, citizens navigate streets and subways illuminated by precise, reliable electrical systems. Shopkeepers open their stores at dusk, students attend evening classes, and families gather in communal spaces. Electricity shapes not only physical infrastructure but also social behavior, commerce, and urban culture. It governs the rhythm of life, subtly orchestrating human activity and opportunity. Electricity also underpins digital technology, connecting the modern world in ways that previous generations could scarcely imagine. Computers, smartphones, data centers, and the internet depend on precise, continuous energy. In a sprawling data center in California, technicians monitor hundreds of servers, ensuring seamless operation for users across the globe. Every click, message, and transaction relies on the hum of electricity coursing through wires, transforming human interaction, commerce, and knowledge sharing. The invisible network of energy that powers the digital world is the culmination of centuries of experimentation and refinement. The environmental and ethical dimensions of electricity have become increasingly central. Renewable energy, energy-efficient systems, and responsible consumption reflect a growing awareness of sustainability. In a Scandinavian town, residents participate in a community initiative to install solar panels and wind turbines, reducing reliance on fossil fuels. Engineers and citizens collaborate to balance technological advancement with ecological responsibility, ensuring that electricity remains both abundant and sustainable. Human choice, awareness, and stewardship are now inseparable from the story of energy. The cultural impact of modern electricity is also profound. Entertainment, communication, and creative expression rely heavily on electric power. In a small apartment, an independent musician records, edits, and uploads tracks for global audiences. A student broadcasts a virtual lecture to thousands of learners worldwide. Artists, educators, and creators harness electricity to expand their reach and influence, turning once local ideas into global conversations. The human capacity for imagination and expression is amplified by the reliable flow of electrons through circuits, wires, and networks. The cumulative impact of electricity is undeniable. It underpins life, work, creativity, and connection across the planet. In a bustling city, a young software developer pauses to reflect on the invisible currents sustaining her life. She marvels at how a force once feared and mysterious now enables education, healthcare, communication, and artistry simultaneously. Consider how electricity shapes your life today. Which innovation or moment in its history fascinates you most, and why? Share your reflections below. Global synchronization, from timekeeping to communication, depends on electricity. Powering satellites, GPS, telecommunications, and digital networks, it links continents in real time. A logistics company coordinates shipments across multiple time zones, relying on precise electrical timing to ensure efficiency and reliability. The same underlying energy that lights homes also orchestrates global trade, demonstrating the profound scale of electricity's impact. Human stories continue to define electricity's relevance. In a remote village, access to a reliable power source transforms education and healthcare. Children use computers for learning, residents communicate with distant relatives, and local clinics preserve vaccines with electric refrigeration. The ripple effect of access underscores that electricity is not merely technology, it is empowerment, opportunity, and societal transformation. Reflecting on centuries of discovery, from Franklin's kite to Tesla's alternating current, Edison's light bulb to modern smart grids, humanity's pursuit of mastering electricity has always intertwined with curiosity, perseverance, and collaboration. In a modern laboratory, a young researcher calibrates a quantum sensor, standing on the shoulders of generations who transformed sparks into light, motors, and networks. Each innovation is a link in a chain connecting past insight to present achievement. The story of electricity today emphasizes responsibility alongside fascination. Individuals and societies must consider sustainable consumption, infrastructure maintenance, and equitable access. Students participate in a community program to monitor energy use, understanding how small choices affect broader networks. Electricity is not an infinite resource, it is a shared human achievement that requires care, stewardship, and awareness. As this journey draws to a close, one sees electricity not just as a utility, but as a narrative of human ambition, ingenuity, and connection. Across the globe, people turn on lights, charge devices, power hospitals, and communicate instantly, each act a reflection of centuries of exploration, experimentation, and collaboration. The invisible current binds individuals to each other and to the history of scientific pursuit, transforming ordinary life into a continuum of discovery. Electricity today is both ordinary and extraordinary. It flows through daily routines and underpins global civilization, linking home, workplace, hospital, and laboratory. A family gathers around a glowing screen for an online celebration, bridging continents, time zones, and generations. From lightning in the sky to the glow of smartphones, from the first spark in a laboratory to global networks, electricity embodies humanity's unending quest to illuminate, connect, and understand the world. Finally, reflecting on responsibility and appreciation. Every use of electricity is part of a long continuum, connecting past experiments, discoveries, and human curiosity to the present moment. In a classroom, students learn about early experiments with sparks and filaments, marveling that the power they take for granted has centuries of effort behind it. Electricity remains both a gift and a responsibility, requiring care, creativity, and reflection. Consider how electricity shapes your life today. Which innovation or moment in its history fascinates you most, and why? Share your reflections below. The journey from lightning in the sky to digital illumination is complete, revealing not just a story of energy, but a story of humanity itself. Curiosity, persistence, collaboration, and the constant drive to transform the invisible into the indispensable.